Welcome, Big Pat Sports Talk fans. This is gonna be a new segment, man. This is gonna be Big Pat Sports Talk, the reaction. We're gonna be reacting to different shows across the sports world. This one here is NFL Speak for Yourself. And I came across this topic a couple of days ago. It says Lamar Jackson worth $40 million a year. I'm going to let you know my process of thinking about the Lamar Jackson new contract that's going to be coming up pretty soon. I'm going to react to what Mr. Marcellus Wiley has to say, former NFL Pro Bowler, play with the Chargers and the Bills, had a very good career. So we're going to listen to what he has to say and his co-host on Speak for Yourself on this subject. And then I'm going to chime in, man. So let's get to it.
Lamar Jackson, $40 million a year, at least a $40 million a year to be absolutely godly. You know I love this dude. You know I can go there all day and wax poetic about how great Lamar Jackson is. I'm going to do some of that right now. But it's so many ways to attack this. I keep talking about how there's only two of Lamar Jacksons in the world, and obviously he's one as a unanimous MVP. So you got...
That's one reason right there. I'm going to say that he is worth $40 million a year. He is a former unanimous MVP, and he's done it with lackluster receiver help. But let's let Marcellus get back into it.
You got to pay that guy $40. You got to respect what he's earned. It's not about giving what Lamar Jackson wants. It's about what he's earned. And what he's earned is over $40 million a year. So let's go to our classic example of Beverly Hills adjacent living Acho. Okay, because if you live in Beverly Hills, you have a jacket on today. But you live in Beverly Hills adjacent, and that's how you come out the house. Okay. Lamar Jackson really has no competition to talk about. Okay, everybody gonna say Patrick Mahomes. Okay, duh. That's not even a competition. That's out of the stratosphere. That's like saying, oh yeah, I got to race for Usain Bolt. It's like, nah, just race for second. This is really a race for second. Who's gonna be the second highest paid quarterback, correct?
That is true. Patrick Mahomes, I don't think anybody's going to get the money that Patrick Mahomes has gotten. Patrick Mahomes does have a Super Bowl. But fans, let's not go overboard with this Patrick Mahomes love. He's a great quarterback. But you got to think, man, look at the weapons this guy's been put around him. Look at his coach, Andy Reid, Tyreek Hill, Kelsey. He had Sammy Watkins there. I mean, Mecole Hardman, Robinson. They gave him Le'Veon Bell. He had a great offensive line till everybody got injured and then released everybody. So we're going to see what Mahomes is about. He's been in a better situation than what Lamar Jackson has been in. Not saying Lamar Jackson has had a bad situation around him. They built that team around him as being an athlete. Now it's time for them to start building that team around him as a quarterback. Let's get him some receivers. They signed Sammy Watkins this offseason. I would love them to draft a receiver first round and pick up Antonio Brown. And let's see what Mr. Lamar Action Jackson can do with some actual weapons around him. But let's let Marcellus get back into it.
So now, let's use some comps to attack this. There's a Dak Prescott who just got $40 million.
True.
There's Deshaun Watson right under there at $39 million. You really want to do this? Because we know that Deshaun Watson has to be the floor for when you're talking about how much you're going to pay Lamar Jackson. Forget the floor, the basement. Let's go to the East Coast. The basement. Because there's no way you can pay him less than $39 million.
True. There's no way you can pay him less than what Dak Prescott got in $40 million. And even though I believe Deshaun Watson's a better quarterback as far as throwing the ball, there's no more person in the league. Doesn't matter, running back, receiver, quarterback, DB, that's more athletic and more exciting than Lamar Jackson on the field when he's playing his game. I'm sorry, there's not. I actually believe Lamar Jackson's worth between $42 and $44 million a year to that Ravens franchise, especially if they build around him the way they're supposed to.
Because look at Deshaun Watson. versus look at Lamar Jackson. Deshaun's only 2 games over 500. 29 and 27 for his career. Don't look at me like that because Deshaun will. Lamar is 31 and 10. So we know what the basement is. 31 and 10 versus 29 and 27. Now, everybody gonna say, different situations, different teams. Duh. So let's do this. What's been your impact? What has been your significant impact to your situation? The Ravens. Let's go 3 years before they go both out here. The Ravens, 22 wins, no playoff appearances in the 3 years before Lamar Jackson. What about the Texans? 27 wins, not that much better, but 2 playoff appearances. Wait a minute. And Lamar went to a worse situation and had that kind of impact on it than a Deshaun Watson. So if Deshaun is 39, we know what you got to be. Now let's talk about Dak. I love me some Dak too. But Dak, in the playoffs, kind of like Lamar. However, when you talk about, do you have an MVP? Do you have a unanimous MVP? Is everything based on you, or is it this combination? Receiving core, Ezekiel Elliott with the older line does, etc., and allowing you to grow? No. So Lamar Jackson has just looked at the comps, the competition, really. Dak, Deshaun, y'all both get out the way. Lamar's going to make at least what Deshaun made, at least what Dak made. That's 40 plus million. That is fair.
That is very true. There's only one other quarterback in the league, as far as the young guns is ready to get paid, that deserves more than Lamar Jackson, and that is Patrick Mahomes, based off the success he's had with the Kansas City Chiefs. He has a Super Bowl. He has an MVP. He has 50 touchdown passes in a year. But let's not forget, man, that Lamar Jackson had over 30 touchdown passes and over 10 rushing touchdowns in the same year. Had over 1,000 yards passing and had, I believe, close to 4,000 yards. 1,000 yards rushing, close to 4,000 yards passing in 1 year. And you already know what the Ravens are coming to do on offense. They have no outside weapons. They have no threat besides Hollywood Brown. And I'm sorry to say he's not a number 1 receiver. He's a weapon. That's what he's used for. He's used for if you have number 1 receivers and they have to double cover them. And they bring fear to that defense. He's the one that can bomb you deep or kill you across the middle with drags and turn a 3-yard drag into a 20 to 25-yard play, because he's that dynamic when it comes to being a weapon. But as far as actually having weapons out there, as far as number 1 receiver, Lamar Jackson has never had that. Dak Prescott has Amari Cooper, now CeeDee Lamb, and Michael Gallup. Deshaun Watson had Hopkins for a while, but last year his receivers weren't that bad, people. He had Brandon Cooks and Fuller. Even though they get hurt a lot, he still had those guys out there, and they still produced pretty well. He led the league in passing yards. So, Lamar Jackson has had the least amount of weapons to work with out of the new young gun quarterback. So, I believe he deserves his money, man. But let's Mr. Acho get into it. Let's see what he has to say.
When you think about a question simply, you will get a simple answer. You're thinking about this question very simply. Is Lamar Jackson a $40 million a year quarterback? Well, duh. If you compare him to what the market currently dictates that you pay for quarterbacks, of course he is. Lamar Jackson's a better quarterback than Dak Prescott by all metrics. So, yes, he is. Lamar Jackson.
I do agree with that. I do believe he's a better quarterback than Dak Prescott on all metrics. It's even throwing the ball. I believe Lamar Jackson just doesn't have the weapons to showcase his arm. But I can agree with that, Mr. Acho.
He's a better quarterback than Deshaun Watson by many metrics. So, yes, duh. All right. But still.
Now, you may be pushing it a little far when you say he's better than Deshaun Watson on many metrics. He doesn't have Deshaun Watson's accuracy. He doesn't have Deshaun Watson as far as arm. Throwing talent is Deshaun Watson by a long mile. It's just that Lamar Jackson is more dynamic than Deshaun Watson. And Deshaun Watson brings some dynamic to his game as well. So I wouldn't say he's head and shoulders above Deshaun Watson. I'm not going to say that.
When you think about things more complex, because life is more complex, right? At least if you want to succeed in this life, you can't think about things so simply. I think about complexity. If you're paying a quarterback $40 million a year, I want a Super Bowl, and I don't want you to be a limiting reactant for me receiving a Super Bowl. I'm going to go somewhere and I will arrive back. We can go to the airport, since I just told you I'm going to take y'all somewhere. If you go to the airport, Marcellus Wiley, and you're buying, and you see an 8-ounce bottle of water for $3.75. Well, then the 20-ounce bottle of water, if it's only $4, yes, it's worth it. Of course.
Yes.
But the real issue at hand is that the 8-ounce bottle of water was never worth $3.75. The airport's already charging too much for the 8-ounce. So if you're going to ask me an isolated question, well, Emmanuel Acho is a 20-ounce worth $4? Yeah, compared to the 8-ounce. But the problem is they overpricing for bottles of water. The problem is, Dak Prescott, to me, philosophically, if you're talking $40 million, there are only 3 to 4 quarterbacks worth $40 million. If I'm paying you $40 million, I don't want you to be a limiting reactor for a Super Bowl. So who are for? Patrick Mahomes, he's not a limiting reactor for his team's success. Aaron Rodgers, he's not a limiting reactor for his team's success. Tom Brady, he's not a limiting reactor for his team's success. And I would submit, but I won't argue about Russell Wilson. Now, you might say, well, Russell Wilson went 11 for 28 or whatnot in the playoffs, 47. That's why I said I will not argue that. But if I'm paying you $40 million a year, I want you to win me a Super Bowl. And if you don't, just don't be the limiting reactor for my success.
So basically what Mr. Acho's take on it is, I believe he's going to say a no. He's saying that I can't pay a quarterback $40 million. That's a limiter to my success, meaning that Lamar Jackson's playoff performances have limited the Ravens as far as winning a Super Bowl. I will say this, he has a good argument. He does have a good argument. I'm kind of in the same boat. If I'm going to pay my quarterback $40 million a year, he has to be a Super Bowl caliber quarterback every year. Patrick Mahomes, yes. Aaron Rodgers, yes, even though he has his failures in playoffs as well. Let's not forget the championship game against Tom Brady last year. The numerous other championship games he's come up small in. But that's another subject. Tom Brady, 7 Super Bowls, yes. Problem is Tom Brady will never take $40 million a year. He's going to take a little bit less so he can get people around him, which is pretty smart. And I will say Russell Wilson, to an extent, yes, his playoff failure basically came last year where he didn't perform up to task, but he's been to 2 Super Bowls, won 1. I will say that. And that's about it. That's my list as well, as far as $40 million quarterbacks. But I will say this. I will give Lamar his due because he's earned it. No matter what you say about his playoff success, he's gotten the Ravens to the playoffs every year that he's been there. He's a winner. He's a leader. The team loves him. He's dynamic. Did I mention he's a leader? You pay guys like that. You have to pay them what the market says they're worth. You have to give a man his worth. That's all I'm saying here. Now, is he worth $40 million a year? Who knows? But I'm the type to say that if the market says what this man is worth, you pay the man what he's worth. I don't care about any other quarterbacks. I don't care about their situations. Only thing that matters in this situation is what Lamar Jackson means to the Baltimore Ravens. And that's why he's worth his $40 million. But let's let Mr. Acho finish up.
The Ravens lost to your Bills in the playoffs by 14 points. Lamar Jackson threw a 100-yard pick six, 14-point swing. The Ravens in the first playoff loss, Lamar Jackson's rookie year. Where'd Lamar Jackson go? The Ravens in the playoff loss last year. Lamar Jackson's sophomore season. What's the deal? Because Lamar Jackson in the playoffs, Marcellus Wiley, versus Lamar Jackson in the regular season, and y'all got the full screens. Y'all look at the numbers. What's really good?
Here are his numbers in the postseason. I'm gonna look at it. It's not good, folks. He's 1-3. Has a 4 touchdown to 7 turnover ratio. 68.3 passer rating. That's just his passer rating. It's 68.3. And a 55.9 completion percentage in the playoffs. I have to say, folks, those are some alarming numbers. Mr. Ocho makes a good valid point. A great valid point. if you want to bring in the stats and everything, with these postseason stats, you have to say no. But like I said, I look at the situation. I look at the player and the situation with the organization. Lamar Jackson is worth $40 million a year to the Ravens. That's my whole point of view on this. Is a certain situation. Is he worth $40 million to another franchise? I don't believe so. But to that Ravens franchise, he's worth $40 million a year. But those numbers, those postseason numbers are alarming. That's crazy.
Season, 64%, playoff, 66. Regular season passer rating, 102. Playoffs, 66. As I look at it, Lamar Jackson come playoff time, you could argue that he's a limiting reactor for his team's success, meaning it's Lamar Jackson that's stopping them from succeeding. The last thing I'm going to say is this. Wow.
With those numbers, he has a valid point. He does have a valid point, people. I'm not going to lie about it. The numbers are right there, man. The numbers can be deceiving at times, but you got the stats staring you right there in the face, man. That's crazy.
The way I look at the philosophy is, if I'm going to pay you a ton of money, I'm not paying you a ton of money to sell tickets. I'm not paying you a ton of money to win individual awards. I'm paying you a ton of money to win it all. Like, I vehemently disagree with the fact that Russell Westbrook has been a multi-million-dollar supermax dude. Russell Westbrook, he's one of the best, most talented players. I'm like, yo, is he going to win a chip? No. Don't do that. I'm not doing that to Lamar right now. I'm not doing that to Lamar right now. What I'm saying is this, Sal. Are you paying a guy because the market dictates his value? Sure. Lamar is clearly worth it if Dak is worth 40. But my issue at hand is this. I don't think Dak is worth 40. I don't think Carson Wentz was worth what he got paid. I don't think Jared Goff was worth what he got paid. And I think the Eagles, I think the Rams currently, I think the Niners with Jimmy G, I think the Vikings with Kirk Cousins, I think several teams would agree with me about several quarterbacks. So I say that, yes, Lamar Jackson is worth it compared to some cats. But the real question is, have we been overpaying all along? Boy.
Good point, man. Damn, good point, man. I would say the same exact thing. He just said it. Because the market is the way it is, Lamar Jackson is worth $40 million a year because of the way the market is. That's just hands down the truth. But is Dak worth $40 million a year? Is Carson Wentz worth what he's getting? Nope. Is Jared Goff worth what he's getting? Nope. Is Jimmy Garoppolo, even though the 49ers made a Super Bowl, but it wasn't because of him. He's not worth the money that he's getting. So, nope. So you have to pay a quarterback based on what the market says. And the market says if Dak is worth $40 million a year, Lamar Jackson at the very least is worth $40 million a year. And that's just what the market does, man. The market's inflated for quarterbacks. And it's only going to get worse because the salary cap is going up. So you look for these new batch of quarterbacks to get their deal. You're going to see quarterbacks signing for $60 million a year pretty soon, man. Your Justin Herberts and Joe Burrows on that second contract. Those are guys going to be making $60 million a year as far as the quarterback market. But very good points by both gentlemen. Thank you guys for tuning in. This is Big Pat Sports Talk, the reactions. Speak for yourself, Mr. Marcellus Wiley and Mr. Acho. Great take on, is Lamar Jackson worth $40 million a year? The answer, when it comes down to it, is yes. You have to pay him $40 million a year. If Dak Prescott is getting $40 million a year, there's no question you have to pay him. But he's only worth it, in my eyes, because of what the market states. When you look at his playoff numbers, no, he's not worth $40 million a year. But to that Ravens franchise, he is, because you've built your franchise around this man. Now it's time to make a push to build a great team around this man, a whole great offense around this man. Get this man some weapons, and we're going to see what he does, man. But until the next time, people, peace.